Hello, the internet, and welcome back. Gavin Newsom didn't take his gun home. Today, on What I Think I Know, let's get into it. A couple things before we really dive in. Three things, very important. We lost some incredible American heroes this week. Three, all in 1 week. Ozzy, of course, everybody knows. Hulk Hogan, just on Wednesday, and or Thursday, I can't remember. Not super important. And also Chuck Mangione. A lot of people probably don't know him, but beautiful trumpet player, King of the Hill, if you remember that. Great show. But anyway, moment of silence for those guys. And may the Lord care for their souls on the other side. They are the lucky guys. They get to meet them. Now, let's dive in. Gavin Newsom. He did not keep his gun, the gun that was gifted to him from Sean Ryan. He didn't keep it, and he wasn't able to after even talking to his own attorney. He created laws so ridiculous that he could not get a firearm back into the state with the best attorney in that matter in the whole state. So it's pretty darn crazy right there. I think the laws have gone far enough. He says he's a fan of common sense gun laws and all that stuff. No, he's just a fan of controlling you and me, of course. Yeah, just ridiculous fun. Now, did anybody see the Hunter Biden interview? I would highly suggest you go back and watch just a little bit of Gavin Newsom, a little bit of Hunter Biden. They're the exact same style, I suppose you could say. Whatever drug Hunter was on, Gavin's been on it as well. Hunter admitted to things like his dad was taking, I believe it was Ambien, he said. And as the president of the United States, we have access to his health records and what prescriptions he's on. Ambien is not on his list of prescriptions, which means he is using a prescription-only drug illegally. You can't use a drug even if, my buddy's got an Ambien, you want to try his Ambien? No, that's illegal. You cannot do that. Do I agree with the law? Doesn't matter who agrees with what. That is the law, and our president broke it. Yeah, kind of funny stuff. Very strange. I'll put a clip, actually. Just maybe a little 30, or like a 10-second clip of each. Just to show you the comparison. Here you are.
And it's a very vibrant cross-border relationship, which is another issue that, respectfully, we should talk more about the economic side of border policy.
Number one, I agree with Quentin Tarantino. George Clooney is not a actor. He is a I don't know what he is. He's a brand.
I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, whatever upper they're on. Whew, boy, I'd like to have some of that. In other news, CARB, I told you we would talk about what truly propels our cars, or what truly will propel our cars in the future. Without diving too far into detail, it's gasoline. Ethanol maybe, but hydrogen, most of you probably don't have any idea that hydrogen has been used as a fuel source, common enough to where we had gas stations with it and all that. But not the answer. You have to hold it in a tank that holds like 30,000 psi. You get into a wreck and you become a giant explosion. Similar with batteries, those lithium batteries, you get in a wreck, they catch fire, they burn for 3 days. No way to put them out. Happens all the time. Just recently, someplace near me, it was like a battery storage place or something like that. Caught fire, burned for like 3 days. Not an uncommon thing. But there is a way to save us all from nonsense. that we have to deal with through all this new energy and all that. The saving grace is HR4117, the, what is it, Fuel Emissions Freedom Act. This would stop any regulation on fuel emissions, essentially. Now, we, of course, it'd still be kind of safe and sane. We're not going back to the 70s. But we are going to go back and fix stuff. The cars coming out of factories today have virtually zero emissions. Almost nothing at all. Pretty much just water. Just hydrogen and oxygen. That's all. A minuscule amount of NOx. Oxides of nitrogen is what that is. But if you compare America to, say, China, we deal in single-digit percentages, and oftentimes they have a decimal point and a zero to start off with. So I'm talking less than 1% of emissions come from America. Now, that's not the accurate number, but there's just so many other things to talk about. I wanted to kind of push more of my fuel talk for later. Just all sorts of nonsense going on in this great country. It's a beautiful thing. I like to see things moving instead of stagnating. That's always fun. So anyway, California Air Resource Board is the group that gives BAR, the Bureau of Automotive Repair, the power to do smog checks. And CARB gets their power from the EPA. The EPA is currently Lee Zeldin, wonderful, beautiful American there, Lee Zeldin. He's really doing a lot of work trying to get rid of all this nonsense. It really, truly only hurts the most poor people. I myself, I'm maybe not poor, but my bank account would argue against that. I do somehow figure out how to pay rent every month. But yeah, I live by the seat of my pants there. I drive, my daily is a 1999 Subaru Forester with 260,000 miles on it. I got it smogged last year. It barely passed. It's probably not going to pass this year, or next year rather. So either I have to now somehow manage to scrounge up several $1,000s to buy a new vehicle, or I maybe can start biking the 110-mile round trip I do every day. I'm not much of a cyclist, but maybe I'll get into it. Just some ridiculousness. So the poorest of the poor people in California can only afford, maybe $1,000 car. They're not going to be able to take out a car loan, let alone save 30 grand to buy something. And even the used market is not very friendly. So if you're looking for a fairly cheap car, you can still find cars from the 90s for around $2,000 to $4,000 kind of thing. Fairly easily, and if you know what you're looking for, you can make it last. I bought this Subaru with about a little less than 200,000 miles on it. It's been to New York City. It's been to Florida. It's a cross-country runner. Remember, I live on the coast in California. 200,000 miles shouldn't really scare you. If you're a mechanic, of course, that helps. I would not really suggest anybody do a long road trip in a car like that unless they actually know what they're doing. But what are you going to do? Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And the poorest of us all probably aren't really doing cross-country road trips. They're more likely just trying to get from work and back. But yeah, the poorest of us all are the ones taking the hit on this because they will no longer have a vehicle. The government is essentially just going to take the vehicle from you. Now, I won't tell you how to find the number or anything, but there is a phone number that you can call and rat out your neighbors. They will pay you to rat your neighbors out if you think their car is not smog compliant. That's a really fun part of communism that nobody really talks about a whole lot, is the whole, you should tell on your neighbors when they're not being a good commie. Welcome to the People's Republic of California. Sorry, not communists. We're not communists. We're the People's Republic. Great. Anywho, fuel emissions are bullshit, just to sum everything up. Absolute nonsense. In fact, plants, I don't know if this was a recent discovery or if it's old, whatever, but plants, somebody found this out. We're all freaking out. What do we do about the carbon in the atmosphere? Oh my God, we're polluting with carbon. There's so much carbon. Did you know that plants bring in carbon dioxide? They separate the carbon from the oxygen, and then they release the oxygen. That is absolutely mind-boggling. That means the more carbon we produce, the more plant life we will have. And it's actually already happened. I can't remember the exact numbers, so don't quote me on this. But I believe it's like from 1915 or something to now, we are 80% more green than we were in 1915. Strange. Very, very strange. I looked this up earlier, although clearly I have not written it down. Let me take a moment here. Bear with me. There we go. Oh, that's funny. Maybe this is where I got 1915 from. Because I do recall it being 1980 to now we're 80% greener, but I don't think that's right. I think it was earlier. It might have been 1935, perhaps. Might have even been 1800s. I don't know. I'll figure that out in just a second. But June 27th of 1915, that is definitely before the Industrial Revolution had enough time to really screw things up. It had, 20, 30 years at that point, and it was still very, very minimal in 1915. That is when Alaska saw the hottest day that has ever been recorded. Records of temperature, I think, have been collected since 1860. So anything before that, we don't have any idea because we weren't recording it. And especially in a place like Alaska before 1960 or 1860, there might not have been very many temperature gauges up there. I don't know. But that's some interesting stuff. Now, on the heat thing, I found out this week that 175,000 Europeans die every year to heat. Very interesting. Pause right here. So the highest temperature ever recorded in Europe is actually about 120 degrees down in Sicily. That's, I believe, as far south as Europe goes. I don't really think there's anything further south than Sicily. And it's a very hot island. It's very, very warm most of the time. So I can't be too surprised about 120. We do get that here in California. Napa, Paso Robles, they often get around there. They're kind of average temperature. Sorry, I'm looking at my hair. It's all goofy. Their average temperature in the summer is like 115 or something like that. But they do get up to 120. I know Death Valley is like 130 or something like that record. We get hot over here. They, for some reason, don't understand how to handle heat. There's a common thing among Europeans, especially the older Europeans, where they actually think air conditioning is unhealthy, which is strange. I mean, the Freon that they use, which now isn't Freon, now it's something else, which isn't really bad for the environment anymore. But the point is, all that stuff is inside the system of hoses. Air travels past a cool piece of copper and transfers the heat into the copper and the cool into the air, obviously, and pushes it through. There's nothing unhealthy about it. Unless you're not changing your air filters and they're getting moldy, that could be very unhealthy. But anyway, because they don't enjoy air conditioning, there is 175,000 of them who die every year from heat and cold. This is, I believe, actually, I take that back. I did not write down the number for cold, but I believe the number for cold is more like 200,000 or 300,000 people every year die from cold. That's about the 175,000 from heat is about 19.4 out of 100,000 people. So take a group of 100,000, let them live 1 year in Europe, 19.4 of them will die. Obviously, it's not quite that simple. But then I found another statistic that I thought was interesting. In the United States, 18,000 people every year die from guns. Now, 30% of that is... I had to bleep that, sorry. 30% of that 18,000 is self-harm. And I want to say 60% of the rest is gang violence. Anyway, I can't remember the breakdown, but what I'm trying to say is the comparison, about 5.4 per 100,000 in the United States die from guns, and 19.4 from heat. A simple air conditioner, that boggles my mind right there. Why are we worried at all about gun death? At all about gun death? I don't remember if I had this stat in last week's episode, but I believe it's something like 60,000 people a year die from cars. Should we illegalize cars? Should we make it illegal in Europe to not have an air conditioner? Yeah, I don't think any of that works. Another interesting stat I found is kind of unrelated, but 70% of Pakistani people are inbred. Just wanted to throw that out there. That's a lot. In Europe, which is... Oh, I was going to point over at the thing, but that's just Africa right there. You can't see Europe. Europe's pretty big. It goes from England over to Asia, essentially, kind of, Turkey sort of thing is like on the border. And I found some weird numbers for that. 2.2 million Pakistani people in Europe and 1.6 and a half million in the UK, which is strange. That would mean the vast majority of Pakistani people coming to Europe at all are just going straight to England. Just some very interesting numbers there. The UK is just England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. We actually talked about that on an episode when we talked about the riot stuff that's going on in Ireland. I really haven't heard anything about it. I have no updates on that, unfortunately. I do have an update. They are doing similar things in Spain now, where the Spanish people are trying to fight off kind of the Muslim groups. The Muslims did take over Spain a long time ago. That's why we had the Crusades, as the Muslims took over pretty much all of Europe. And we're just murdering and Christians. Sorry, I can't say that word either. Murdering and Christians all over Europe for like 800 years or something. And then we finally fought back for like 60 years and kicked some butt. Anywho, off of that stuff and on to Barack Obama, our great president. I personally think he was the absolute worst president until we had Biden. Biden was much, much worse. Although I personally think he was just being controlled by Obama. But anyway, Obama is under investigation. Yes, finally. Probably nothing's going to come of it. But the whole Russia collusion stuff, the Democrat Party, somebody in that party just kind of one day said, hey, Trump got help from the Russians. The Russians hacked the vote. And then it was proven that there was no possible way they could do that, and all this sort of stuff. So that was, it's still, I could see it in my, it's like sitting right here. I don't know where. But anyway, sorry, my hair. So it essentially, that was not only election interference, truly, because if people really thought that Trump was in bed with the Russians, then obviously they're not going to vote for him. So if they just believed that whole, 51 said that Trump colluded with Russia, FBI agents or whatever it was, 51 of those, 51 people signed that paperwork. And apparently, Obama started all that. Tulsi Gabbard came out, said a whole thing about it. Apparently, we're getting more information later. So that's just some fun stuff. Speaking about terrible people, we have the WNBA. I know not 100% of them are terrible people. They do have Caitlin Clark amongst their midst, so not all of them, but everybody else. Now, apparently, Caitlin Clark did not want to join, but was coerced into joining these ladies. They wore a shirt that says, "Pay us what you owe us." Now, I'm sure everybody on the internet's had a field day with this already. I just kind of wanted to put my 2 cents in there. Obviously, we know the WNBA is subsidized by the NBA to the tune of about $15 million a year. So, without doing any math, we already know they're getting money from elsewhere. So they're not making the money they need. So clearly, they are not owed anything. In fact, they owe the NBA quite a lot of money. So that's something fun. But my big question is, and shout it out, yell it down in the comments there, who is the target audience? They're wearing those shirts on the camera that is being shown to us. Am I supposed to pay the WNBA? Are you? Who are they talking to? Pay us what you owe us. Who's you? Am I you? Do you think I owe you anything? A sports team, again, I'm sure this has been touted all across the internet, but a sports team is certainly a luxury. If I cannot afford, to feed my children or whatever, something like that, I have already stopped watching sports because that's a waste of time. You got to pay for the service. I know with the NFL, it's changed a little bit, but there was a point where it was like $150 a month or something like that, and you'd be able to see all the NFL games. WNBA, NBA, I'm sure it's similar. You gotta pay ESPN or whatever to watch those games, and nobody's watching them. So they have no income. But again, who is their target audience? Who are they asking to pay them more money? That's the answer I would like to have, because it doesn't make any sense to me at all. And, that kind of closes out all of the sort of news stuff for the day. I have sort of 2 more points to make to you. My first one is driving. When you are preparing to exit the freeway, you're taking that exit, right? If you say get past, like, how the white line comes up and goes this way, and then there's another white line here that starts and goes this way, and then the other part goes that way. Well, if you've passed this opening, you're not supposed to cross over that white line to get back on the road. That's not how you do traffic. What you're actually supposed to do is go down to the next exit and take that, get back on the highway, go in the other direction, go back down to that exit, come back around. I know it's a pain in the ass, but it's better than the alternative. Today, I was behind a truck. I took that exit. He was going pretty darn slow. So I took that exit, and it's a pretty darn fast exit. So I ended up about next to him. Now there's white lines in between us. He's not supposed to cross that triangle there. snow cone kind of thing, or ice cream cone sort of thing. But he did anyway, and I, had some fun in the dirt. Fortunately, I drive a 99 Subaru. It's lifted and stuff. I've been a mechanic for years, so I always play around with my cars. Lifted, super soft, buttery suspension, so it's all rocky, and I'm just floating over it anyway. But if I was driving, a Toyota Camry, yeah, it could have been really, really messy going into the dirt at 65 miles an hour. So be careful on the road. Also, actually, just like 10 minutes later, we were coming up on a roundabout, and a Mustang, totally different guy, a Mustang ended up pulling into my lane because his lane stopped, but he didn't notice that my lane was also stopped. About that far from kissing his rear end. I should have. Just for the insurance. No, just for his insurance, rather. Get him, driving a little smarter. Anyway, no, I'd never do something like that. That's beyond ridiculous. Don't ever risk your life to teach someone a lesson. Your life is far more valuable than anybody else who's fucking around with you. I have to bleep that too. Anywho, yeah, be careful on the roads and be smart. Your life is valuable. Very, very valuable. My last little bit to the camera here is on cell phones. First off, if you don't use OtterBoxes, you're empty up here. I drop this thing 1,000 times a day. I've never had a broken screen, never had an issue of really any kind, other than, why does your phone do that? But it's not always, it's not all the time. It's just every once in a while you hit it right and it does that. What's the purpose? Was there like a planned purpose for it and then it didn't work out? I don't understand. I just don't think it should be there. My other and probably the biggest issue I will ever have with an iPhone is when it tries to guess what my next move is. There's the thing with the batteries. It will try to learn your schedule and then optimize charging so that when you need it, it's at 100%. But it doesn't sit at 100% the whole time it's plugged into the wall. So you cannot leave your phone to charge to 100% and just expect it to be at 100% when you get back to it. 9 times out of 10, it's still going to be at 80%. And that would be great if everybody had a very solid schedule. Unfortunately, that's really not how the world works anymore. Nobody, for the most part, has just a regular schedule. Everybody's all over the place. We all got all kinds of different stuff going on. I work 3 jobs. Well, I can't remember what day it was. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I went out to go do something one day. I knew it was going to be just about an all-day thing. And I wanted to have my earbuds in. I was just going to be working on stuff for, I was guessing kind of 8 to 10 hours. I wasn't really sure. And I like to listen to podcasts or music or whatever. So I wake up real early, 4:30 in the morning, whenever, do my, morning business, and then head out and start working. And I drove an hour to get here. And overnight, my phone had charged up to 80%, but because I got up at 4:30 instead of the usual, which is not usual, I get up anywhere from like 5 to 10 a.m. It totally depends on the given day. So just that alone, the fact that it thinks it can guess my schedule is just beyond maddening to me. But anyway, I get up at 4:30 in the morning. I have to leave the house. I can't sit around and wait for my phone to charge another 20%. So I, unplug it from the wall. I go do my thing for a little bit. I get in the car. Now it's at, 76% battery, whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't much lower. Get in the car, plug it in the car. I always plug it in when I hop in the car. And drive an hour. I get to the place I'm going to be working here. I turn off the car, and boy, wouldn't you know, I'm at 80 freaking percent. That's not going to last me the whole day. It lasted about 6 hours, 6.5 hours or so. And then it didn't die. I got down to 5% or something like that, or 8%, and just went the whole rest of the day with no music, no nothing like that, no entertainment. Just doing menial tasks and whatever. I mean, hey, that's how we did life for several 100,000 years. But we live in the future now. Not really. If you've seen that episode, we don't live in the future. We still live in, at best, the 70s. Anyway, that screen lifting thing where it shifts the screen down for no apparent reason bothers me a little bit, just because when you're trying to do something, especially if you don't have a whole lot of time, when you're trying to do something, it really doesn't work very well. But other than that, I mean, the 80% battery is just bonkers. And you can go into your settings and turn it off, but it won't turn off. I don't know if it turns off at all. I've literally, while it's charging, it's at 80%. Should show you all my miming. Sorry, I'm Italian. I talk with my hands. If I don't have my hands, I'm silent. And oftentimes I'm actually moving the hands down here below the camera. You can't see it. I am working on figuring out mostly a microphone, and then I will actually back away from the camera and separate. Right now the camera is on my desk, so I'll separate the two. So you can see my hands and my motions and all the weird things I do. But anyway, yeah, you can't start your day at 80%, and your phone will never be able to figure out your actual schedule, and you can't turn it off. It's got a mind of its own. Well, I guess we're all screwed. Anywho, that's kind of what went down this week. Just a snippet of it. Again, I am working on doing a kind of a daily thing. I'm just so busy right now. On the 29th of July is going to be my last day working with the group I've been kind of volunteering with. So that should open me up to at least a bit more. It was Tuesday and Wednesday. So I'll have those days opened up, but inevitably they will be full of real estate stuff and working on cars and all that. So we're going to figure it out. But something really special I have is coming up. I'm not sure when. It might be next week. It might be the week after. It might be the week after. But sometime within the next 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to have some guests on the show. Just some fellas I work with. They've got some very interesting backgrounds. And we're just going to have a chat. I've got some questions for them specifically about, them and their life. And then we've got some interesting questions about things they don't know about. And we're just going to kind of pick their brain, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Now, they are my only 2 viewers of the show, so they might be the only ones to see it, but we'll cross that bridge later. I did have 27 views on the very first episode, so I kind of do think whatever the algorithm or whatever is holding me back because I'm speaking wildly. They probably, I would assume, see a transcript of all the things that I say and push me down. But that's all right. What are you going to do? I'll find somewhere else to post all these videos. I'm sure I'll still always post them on YouTube unless I find somewhere really cool that I don't have to censor myself. Therefore, I cut out like a whole hour of editing. That would be awesome, and I might not have it on YouTube. But really, the whole point of this channel is, there's kind of 3 reasons. One, my buddies at work, these 2 guys and several others hounded me for several weeks to start this. 2, I am sort of invested in politics to a point just because the things that I love are illegal. That would be guns and cars. A little tidbit about cars. I know we've talked a lot about guns. We will talk a lot more about guns in the future. But a little thing about cars. A A turbocharger will make your car more efficient and less pollutant. But in California, I have to buy a CARB compliant, California Air Resource Board compliant turbocharger. And that would cost about $5,000. For, this is the whole kit and caboodle kind of thing. If you don't know anything about cars, just imagine it's a part that makes your car a little bit faster. And it costs about $5,000 for all the bits. If it's CARB compliant. If it wasn't CARB compliant, that often means even more efficient, even less pollution. It's more like you could probably put something together for like $1,200-$1,500. So to make your car faster, more efficient, cleaner, the state makes you pay an extra, what is that, $4,500? $3,500. Yes, $3,500. Absolutely disgusting. Wild. Please call your people. That is, your congressman, your, I don't even know who else. I can't think of it. Your senators, all that sort of stuff. Anywho, call the people. But to find who that is, you can just easily Google, hey, who's my congressman? Or who's my House representative? This is a House bill, whatever. It's going to the House first. That's how it works. The bill comes up, the House will vote on it, then it goes to the Senate. The Senate will vote on it. If they pass it as well, then it goes to the president, and he will sign it or veto it. Same concept in states where, like in California, Gavin Newsom is essentially our President Trump on a smaller scale, which does mean if you do actually go back and watch the interview with Gavin and Sean Ryan, you'll see all of his bulgogi. He actually says that multiple times, like 6 or 8 times, he goes, "Oh yeah, well they just always blame Gavin Newsom. Just blame me." Yeah, you're in charge, buddy. You're the freaking leader. That's why they blame you. Anywho, this episode's gone on long enough. I certainly hope you enjoyed. I had a lot of fun making it, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Crack cocaine and cocaine is sodium bicarbonate and water and heat, literally.
That's it?
That's it.
And those things are pretty much free if you go to like a science store.
This is free. You can go to your neighborhood convenience store and just get. Anyway, I don't want to tell people how to make crack cocaine, but it literally is a mayonnaise jar, cocaine, and baking soda. Does crack cocaine make you act any differently? No. Is it safer than alcohol? Probably. People think of crack as being dirty. It's the exact opposite. When you make crack, what you're doing is you're burning off all the impurities so that it combines with the sodium bicarbonate, which makes it smokable. That's all.